Welcome to Thought Leaders, featuring interviews with some of the best minds in the industry. Today's special guest is popular platform speaker and software vendor and best-selling author, Curtis Cloak. Hello everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and talk show host. In this segment, we're talking about the new face of retirement and why the retirement landscape is changing, all from Curtis's popular presentation, Cracking the Retirement Code, and his best-selling software, The Annuity Bulldozer. Well, welcome to the show. I have to say, Curtis, it's been a little while.
Yeah, Steve, great to be here.
And this whole thing about cracking the code, I remember when QLEC came out about a year ago and you were on our show, we said we may have to redesign our entire retirement plans with our clients.
That's
Do you
correct.
still hold to that?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we're finding more and more fact patterns where that becomes true, where the old math and science based on availability of product and tax suddenly changes the game in terms of the efficient frontier of product allocation to the income allocation story. And so you kind of got to test all over again those cases you've done, even if they've even begun retirement.
And especially if people don't need their RMDs. I mean,
Sure.
This is a huge give for. I'm surprised the government came up with this.
Yeah, I have a little insight on where that all came from, by the way, but there's good reasons why the government supports this.
Well, I'm looking at one of my favorite all-time rock groups. I can't believe these guys are in their 70s. This is the new face of retirement, baby boomers. I mean, I'm one of them, Curtis. So what can I say? We're talking about baby boomers, people that are born from 1948 to 1964. In your slide, you say there's 10,000 a day turning 62, and we're going to live longer. By the way, how much longer?
Well, you know, the Society of Actuaries just published in October of last year the updated 2012 mortality tables. And the average increased life expectancy for every man and woman in the United States is on average about 2.4 years from what the last society tables were, 10, 12 years ago. And so we're seeing that's a significant increase in terms of average life expectancy. And when you understand that the average means that 50% of the people live longer, we're talking about building a platform for average life expectancies. You're talking about a 50-50 chance of success or failure. So you really have to think even longer than that. What's to come on the next update? Is it in onesies and twosies in terms of number of years of increases, or now is it like 4 and 5 years at a jump? And that's the question that's being debated by the Society of Actuaries today.
And that does not include how we parse super preferred, preferred plus, preferred, standard plus, and standard. So there's people that are going to live even farther than these numbers are even displaying at this time.
You know, I bumped into two people in the sessions that I did this week. There's two different parties that had parents that one was 104, one was getting ready to turn 107. So, I mean, it's a routine conversation to talk about the centurions out there already in existence. So we're going to see this over the next 20, 30 years in a very meaningful way.
Curtis, when you say this line, and I want to ask you about this, 75% of baby boomers have not saved enough for their retirement. You're talking about baby boomers. We're all either in retirement, we're heading into retirement, or we're going to be going into it pretty soon, and we don't have enough money because of the longevity issues?
It's predominantly because of longevity, but markets, Bill Gross happened to say right after the 2008 crash, Bill Gross basically said the mean's going to change. And so retirement's changing, and the landscape is moving underfoot.
Well, when you say the landscape's moving, I looked at your picture of your bridge in Honduras. Are we saying that river that's in this picture was actually under this bridge at one time?
Yes, this bridge was actually about 3 years old until this hurricane came through Honduras, and it moved an entire river, so that the bridge that was built to span the river no longer is anything more than useless.
So are you using this as a metaphor to talk about these points? So you're saying we're talking about Medicare facing unfunded liability. We're not talking about the debt clock right now. We're just talking about the Medicare unfunded liability. $38 trillion over the next 75 years. Is that the real number?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, Medicare's a bigger issue than Social Security by far.
Wow. And remember, states are expanding their Medicare right now to agree with some of the federal issues. I'm wondering about this. You say, and I noticed this, less than 10%. And when you say less than 10% of companies offer pensions, are you talking about just defined benefit programs?
Defined benefit pension plans Less than 10% of the companies offer those today. And we all know this in the industry. We've seen them evaporate over the years to defined contribution plans so that companies can budget their cost of what they're assessing to each employee and their future retirement.
Now, 401ks are still on the line, but how many employers are matching that?
Well, I think that many employers do match that. The question is, are they matching what they used to, or are they matching less? Or do they just merely have the presence of a defined contribution plan to say that they do as one of their benefits without even contributing a thing?
You say here that really right now, U.S. state, that's not even the federal, the U.S. state unfunded pensions, commitments, future obligations is at $1 trillion.
Yeah, and that's the reason that's very troubling is because federal pensions have a federal backing. State pensions do not. So that they're certainly the most vulnerable.
Now, we've already talked about this, but you put down, and this is the average, again, I want to point out, half less, half more, 86.6 years for male, 88.8 for female, and that doesn't include super preferred, preferred plus, preferred. I mean, these numbers are unreal.
Well, you know, I think that the context of this is there are two tables out there. There's one that says when you're born, the day you're born, age 0 to the date of death. That's a different set of mortality tables. This table represents Americans, both men and women, who achieve age 65. Now what's life expectancy? And it's the old adage, the longer you live actuarially, the longer you're going to live. And so these are the tables based on a person actually achieving age 65. And they went up to 2.4 to 2.5 years from the last tables.
Well, for more information on how you can use Curtis's revolutionary retirement strategies with your clients and prospects to expand your practice, just click on the landing page address in the video description. We'll be right back with more from Curtis Cloak.
A solid web presence has never been more important to the success of your business. Introducing Agent Website Creator, provided by CreativeOne. Through Agent Website Creator, you can create your own personalized website and have it up and running easily with zero knowledge of programming. Choose from several designs with easy drag and drop customization. Get proven lead generation offers, professionally written articles, and helpful financial calculators. Plus, the ability to embed videos, integrate your social media, and more. Update your website anytime and show the world within minutes. The best part? It's hosted for free. To learn more about Agent Website Creator, call your CreativeOne sales team at 800-992-2642 or visit us online at creativeone.com.
In this segment, we're talking about the new face of retirement and is the U.S. heading for a retirement riot? All from Curtis's popular presentation, Cracking the Retirement Code, and his best-selling software, The Annuity Bulldozer. Well, welcome again. Welcome back. We're talking about, this is such a weird slide. When I first saw it 2 years ago when I went to one of your classes, I have to say, I mean, this was kind of a scary idea. Europe's having problems here, and this was one of the front page pictures, only because they told them they had to wait a couple of years.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I was reading this article. I actually took this magazine with me on my flight to California back in 2010. And in 2010, you might remember, we were in the middle of two wars, right? Afghanistan and Iraq. And I had a son over there in the Marine Corps. And when I saw the picture, I had the impression I was going to sit down in my seat in the airplane and read about what was going on in the Middle East. And then when I sat down, I couldn't believe it when I started actually reading the content. This is about France. And the story is that Nicolas Sarkozy, who was the president at the time, looked at demographics and looked at cost of entitlements and looked at the demographics of how people were living longer. And, they have their version of our Social Security system over there, but their early retirement age isn't 62. It's always been age 60, or it has been for many years. And so realizing the situation that they're in, Nicolas Sarkozy got it passed through their parliament that they would change it January of 2014 from 60 to 62. And they announced this at 5 o'clock news, and the next morning, this is what was going on in the streets. Now, what was really interesting is that cut from 1960 and younger. So anybody 1960 and younger were going to get impacted by this change, and anybody born 1959 and older was not going to get impacted. So if you were to be able to really view the article and look at the picture in the page, what you see is that it's those folks that be infected based on when they were born that's really involved in the rioting. So we call this the retirement riot. The retirement riot in France. We have a slide on the CBO report.
So let's walk through this. This is the U.S. expenditures on major entitlements, and we're looking at a graph from 1975 all the way out to 2020. So this is we're about 5 years out from this. Curtis, we're talking about federal military, income security, and from unemployment and SNAP, but then Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. These are the numbers. This number is huge.
Yeah, so when you see, I think our society in the Western world is not much different than France. And we're the same people, generally speaking. Yeah. I mean, there's some differences, but from a demographic point of view, we're very, very similar. And of course, they have a much more protracted situation where they're starting 2 years sooner than we are. But the reality is, with these entitlements and our situation in the economy the way that it is, world, global economy that we're in a place where we're going to have to address this issue ourselves. Now, what's interesting about the story in France is that Nicolas Sarkozy had to defend his presidency because there was another election before 2014. And his competitor ran against him that if you vote for me, I'm going to undo this rule that Nicolas Sarkozy had positioned. And in fact, that's exactly what happened. And guess what happened January 14? Absolutely nothing. Today, France is still retiring, early retirement at age 60. They kicked the can down the road. That's exactly what we've done in the U.S. And when we finally address this issue, Steve, we'll have a retirement riot, no different than they did in France.
Wow, so this could happen in the U.S.
I believe so. And in fact, I asked 5 audiences this week as I spoke around the country, and every audience agrees that our attitude, our Western society will respond very similarly as they did in France.
Well, this morning before I got ready for our show, I went out to the U.S. debt clock where we're clocking right now at 18.3 trillion with a T. But if you go out to truthinaccounting.org, which not only combines the U.S. debt, but all federal and state obligations into the future, we're looking at 80 trillion plus. Now, Curtis, those numbers are mind-boggling to me. Even with my HP12C, I struggle with numbers like that.
Yeah. So there's 2 things that we really can't tolerate, and that is we can't tolerate this kind of lift in these entitlements without significant tax collections going up or some significant reduction in spending. And so we're going to have to modify, predominantly because how long people are living, what's going on here. But the other thing we really can't tolerate in this economy is a growing interest rate. And so thus we're going to see these interest rates stay low for a very, very long time.
Before we leave the segment, how much of this problem is longevity?
I would say predominantly the problem is longevity.
So it's not about math or money or earnings. It's about we're just living too long. That's why these numbers are compounding.
Think about it. When Social Security began, average life expectancy was 65. And of course, a few years ago, average life expectancy was 75. Here we are at 86.6 for men and 88.8 for women. And you just can't squeeze the same dollars with inflation and long living. You can't squeeze the same dollars out of the same bank account. So we've got issues. Longevity is creating. It's a good thing. It's a bad thing. These are problems financially in this country we'll have to address.
Well, for more information on how you can use Curtis's revolutionary retirement strategies with your clients and prospects to build out your business, just click on the landing page address in the video description. And for more information on our shows, seminars, and workshops, just follow us on social media or visit us out on our website. I'm Steve Savant. We'll see you next time on Thought Leaders. And remember, keep thinking outside the box.